how are you doing tonight, Mr. Sayre?
Yeah, very good. It's tonight for you, and it's just morning for me.
Yeah, well, our listeners
here in Australia.
Sure, our listeners on the original 70s soundtrack that are on the East Coast will know that we're actually calling Mr. Sayre in Australia, where it's tomorrow. And is there anything about tomorrow that you need to warn us about?
Yeah, I said no. The weather looks good. There's no tsunamis and no cyclones. It's autumn now here because it's kind of opposite seasons.
Right.
So basically, you know, the leaves are falling off the trees, and although it's a beautiful sunny day outside.
Sure. I think you you actually became an Australian citizen in what, 2009?
I did 2 years ago. Yeah, my career was always good down here. Right from 1974 when I first came to the States, and then first came to Australia, there was something about this place that I kind of liked. It was probably an ideal marriage between the States and the UK and England and Europe. Well, quite honestly, I wasn't getting much offers from the States or from Europe and Britain, but I was getting lots of offers for work down here. So since I've been down here, maybe I'm a big fish in a small pond, although it's not that small a pond, but I'm just working constantly. They seem to have taken me over.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention that Australia has always welcomed you as a performing artist and a recording artist, I think, with a great deal of enthusiasm that maybe only was surpassed by the UK, and certainly later into your career.
I mean, the peculiar thing is I think in total record sales I've probably sold more in America than I have here or the UK or Europe.
Well, it's a tough market here right now. I don't know if it's the economy is part of it, the recession, but bands I love, I mean, and bands with strong histories, they just can't get bookings. They can't get any bookings right now. Everybody's
finding it hard to survive, aren't they?
People just aren't buying tickets.
Well, look, I mean, I would love to come back, and we're always talking to people in the States. But for some reason, economically, you know, it never seems to bear out. You know, we end up being offered something that kind of, well, we have to pay our own ticket because the economy is not good. But when we get there, you know, the package is often, should we say, we're going to end up. I always think that, you know, when you've sold a couple of #1 records and you've had some big hits, you want to be playing some decent shows, you know, and we end up getting offered some very small places. And, you know, at the end of the day, something comes in from Australia or from Europe, and it seems to beat it out, you know. And I mean, I'd love to come back. I mean, I dream of doing a tour, you know, doing House of Blues and those kind of places and Hard Rocks and.
Right.
But it never seems to come up, you know.
Yeah, well.
And I find out very sadly that there's a kind of covers band doing that, you know. Well, I was looking at a package tour which we had planned with KC. Howie Casey is an old mate, and Casey and the Sunshine Band and a few people like that. But it didn't come to fruition. But I know Howie's on the lookout, and I know that if he does something, I know he'll include me. So I think package is the only way to do it.
Right.
You know, we've got to kind of all come in and link together and try and you know, sort of help each other. We all know that.
Right.
It's still tough to even get that in the right way, you know. And
sure.
It's unfortunate, isn't it?
Oh, I'm a one-man band. Nobody knows or understands. Is there anybody out there wanna lend a hand to my one?
But let's do a little retrospective. This is a 70s show, and I want to take you back to that first album because I think was it Warner Brothers you signed with?
It was Warner Brothers we signed with, and Joe Smith came over to, Joe Smith was the president of Warner's, and he came over to the UK to see me perform.
Wow.
And I had a manager called Adam Faith, who was a singer, and Adam was very clever in kind of selling Leo Sayer, you know.
Right.
So the Warner's president was in town, so he said, "Come on, you're gonna come and see something. You're gonna see the new act that's gonna save your life."
Right.
He put it like this, and so Warner, they came down, and I remember he took them for fish and chips afterwards. You know, it was one of those kind of, and Joe was just charmed by the whole thing, and he saw the band, of course, and he just turned around and he said, "I'm giving you a deal right here on the spot."
And 10 record deal.
Fantastic break.
And it was a 10 record deal?
It was a 10 record deal, yeah. It was kind of, I think it was one of those that they used to offer up in those days, which was 10 albums or 10 years.
Right.
You know, and the idea was that you would provide a record a year.
See, now
I think all the Warner's people would like it.
You could never do that now. I mean, now the current scenario is
I know.
10 minutes.
I tell people that now, and they can't believe it. They go, what? The companies really wanted, great creative artists. I mean, the Warner's vibe with Van Morrison and Little Feat and Ry Cooder and Randy Newman and Alice Cooper. It was very much about creative artists. Frank Zappa,
Was it your decision to sort of go with that Perio image early on?
Well, the Pierrot was my idea.
Yeah.
I always loved this. I loved the character in a French movie called Les Enfants de Paradis. We're in the time of David Bowie and Mark Bolan and, very innovative artists who, it's all about, we didn't have video in those days, so we'd look striking on stage.
Right.
So you're trying to conjure up some kind of image that really described the music. And when we made the album, I'll tell you what, Alan, I stepped in front of the mirror and I thought, God, this is me. I can carry this off.
Right.
Because you see, the other thing at the start of a career, you're very nervous. You don't know. You need to be playing a part in a way.
Sure.
And hiding behind the makeup for the first year of my career was an ideal way to grow in confidence and yet have that kind of, that magical safety cord that, well, if it doesn't work out, they won't recognize it.
Baby, though I chose this lonely life, it seems it's strangling me now.
But I've got to tell you a funny story on the side of it. When we first went to, the first gigs we did were in Memphis. But at that time, Three Dog Night had a number, it was number 2 record, I believe, with their version of The Show Must Go On.
Absolutely.
Which was my first hit. And I was kind of miffed about that because I didn't really realize the value of a cover, a song, being a hit, that I would make money out of it. I just thought they're stealing my song.
Sure.
So I'm down in Memphis and we're doing the first shows, and I kind of realized that nobody has a photograph of me without the makeup. So we start to devise the show where I'll get changed at the hotel, and I go down kind of dressed as the Pierrot. In fact, I walk straight the way through the city streets right to the gig, and I'm a pretty white guy in Memphis at that time. It was quite a people would stop in the cars and go, "Oh my God, look at that clown!"
Right.
And I just walked into the gig. The band were playing. I walked up on stage, played my set. They're all in shock, because they don't know what to make of this guy. And also, why is he singing the Three Dog Night song? So I had to kind of explain that. Yeah, that kind of thing. So I get off stage and I walk straight away through the crowd. There was a car handily parked around the corner. I whistled off all the makeup and changed into jeans and rushed around to the front of the theatre where people are just coming out. And they go, "Who was that guy?" And I'm turning around and I'm sort of saying, "Hey, he was great. What did you think?" So I didn't have to listen to managers or record company guys to tell me how great I was, whether I was or not. They're always going to tell you the same thing anyway.
Sure.
So I got it firsthand, and that became the pattern for the entire tour, everywhere we went. And it was fantastic. It was like living a double life. I mean, they didn't know what I looked like, so I could walk around and discover America in the streets and talk to people about this Leo Sayer character who they didn't link me with.
Wow.
So it was great fun.
Yeah, it could have gone the other way too. Some American could have turned on you and said, "He's totally rubbish. That one is. He's no good.
Yeah,
He's
that's true.
terrible.
He's totally rubbish, mate.
He's awful. Get him off the stage."
but it was great. It was very exciting,
Awesome.
And it was a 6-month visit, and I found a lot about the States and a lot about what I could do with it. And we had opening acts like Hall & Oates and Billy Joel.
Wow.
I mean, they were my opening acts, man.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I tell you, then right into album number 2. Was it Just a Boy? I think had one-man band and your breakout hit, I guess, for you as a solo artist with Long Tall Glasses.
I was traveling down the road, feeling hungry and cold. I saw a sign saying food and drinks for everyone. So now
Long Tall Glasses, yeah. It was when Long Tall Glasses hit the top 10, that's when we knew we'd really arrived.
Right.
Like Rod Stewart, you take on Tom Dowd and Teddy Templeman and those kind of guys, and you make this big international record. We hadn't done that, but I remember Elton John saying, For God's sake, he said, don't take on the American producers. You'll spoil it. Your magic is what you do.
Right.
But Adam got pressured by Warner's, and I think that's when we said, no, we've got to move out of that. You know, I mean, you make me feel like dancing if you want me to tell you the story. That came out of a jam session. Yeah, we were just kind of like, you know, there was a record by Shirley and Company. I don't know if you remember Shame.
Oh, yeah, that's how I make my bread and butter.
Yeah,
All the 70s.
That's right, which was an extraordinary record that came from nowhere. And right at the time we were recording, which was early 1976, that was a hot record. And I was playing it on the way down to the studio in Melrose Boulevard down in Los Angeles. And I just walked into the session singing it. And Jeff Porcaro, Toto's drummer,
sure,
who was playing drums with him, so he said, I love that record too. So we were just kind of like grooving on it and fooling around with it. And then I think we had to get serious because we were recording another song. And in the break, as soon as Richard said, you know, from the control room, let me sort things out, guys. Just amuse yourselves for a moment. And we went straight into Shame, Shame, Shame again.
Right.
So at this time, the whole band's playing, and Ray Parker Jr. is playing a riff on it, and
from Radio,
on the guitar, and Lee. Yeah, from Radio and Ghostbusters theme, of course. So everybody hit this groove, and I think Richard heard it leaking into the control room while he was listening to what we'd just done, and he stopped the tape and just said, "Look, you know, forget what we're doing, just go into record that now." 2 days later, Richard turns around to me and says, "I've come into the studio, listen to this." And he put it on. I said, "Oh, that's us just jamming." Yeah, Shirley and Company. And I said, "Wouldn't it be great to make a record like that?" And he said, "Well, you just did." And he said, "And that is your hit. Now, let's finish it." So it was just me jamming and going, "You got a cute way of talking," you know, over the top.
You got a cute way of talking. You got the better of me.
Yeah, and it's kind of vaudeville in a way, you know, which goes right back to my roots, that kind of phrasing.
Yeah.
But the thing was, we needed a chorus, and Vinny had been hanging around the studio, and we'd always seen him a lot. He was, you know, Richard played it to him, and he said, "Look, let's do a chorus," you know, and we wrote for about 5 minutes, I think, because Vinny had a bad back. So, ironically, Vinny's contribution to the song, which was great, and I never knock it, was 5 minutes.
You make me feel like dancing, wanna dance tonight.
My contribution to the song was 15 minutes. So we wrote the damn thing in 20 minutes. It's not bad for 20 minutes work.
No, not at all.
Pretty good. And we got 2 hits out of it because we had a song called How Much Love as well, as you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dancing. And we cut them very fast because the band was so good, because the guys played so great, you know.